Good YouTube, thank you for being here. My name is Coach, and in today's video, we're gonna learn how to build a commander deck from scratch, specifically for people who have never built a commander deck before. I recommend that while you're watching this video, you grab your card collection and you build your commander deck while you watch this video. If you find this video helpful, be sure to like the video and subscribe to this channel, as more videos like this are going to be made in the future. The head of every commander deck is a commander. Now, commanders are specifically creatures and some other cards sometimes, but for the purpose of this video, they're generally creatures that say legendary creature. Now, there are a couple things we have to note when we take a look at our commander. Our commander has color identity. If we take a look at this, the color identity is blue and red. That means the cards inside this commander deck can only be blue, red, or colorless. Also, when we look at our commander is generally going to have an ability. This commander's ability says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value greater than the number of experience counters you have, you get an experience counter. For each experience counter you have, instant or sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. And when I look at Mizzix, the words that stand out are instant and sorcery spells and experience counters. Focusing on those keywords is important because it's what's going to allow you to choose the specific cards in your collection that roll best with your commander. Now, I need you to pause the video, go through your collection, find a commander that you want to build, and then notice the keywords on that card. Now that we have our commander and we are aware of what we want our commander to focus on, now I was taught to start building the deck through building our mana base, specifically with our lands. Generally, when I build commander decks, what I've learned over time is that 36 lands is generally where I want to be. So to make this as simple as possible, I have basic lands over here, and I have 18 islands, and I have 18 mountains, which equals 36. So right now, inside this deck, I have 36 lands and 1 commander, bringing the total of cards to 37. Remembering that in a commander deck, we need 100 cards for a deck to be considered legal in commander. Now that we have our lands, what we're going to focus on is filling out the rest of the deck. So what kinds of cards are we looking for in our collection to build out this commander deck? We're looking for cards that are going to draw us cards. We're looking for cards that are going to help us destroy our opponent's things or remove them from the board. We're looking for cards that act as something in Commander called ramp, or in Magic called ramp. And ramp means that we can pay 2 mana or any amount of mana for something to add mana to our mana pool. Essentially, I can pay 2 mana to put this card into play, and this card would basically act like one of the lands, which create mana sources that allow us to play our cards. And we're also going to look for creatures that have or share the key words that our commander cares about. We have a dual caster mage, which is a creature that, if you notice, says instant or sorcery inside of its text. And because it shares the key words that we have over here on our commander, instant and sorcery, we can pretty much assume that there's going to be some synergy to be had while we play both of these cards together in the same deck. To pause the video right now, go into your collection, and find cards that fit the description of the cards that I just showed to you that you can play in your commander deck. So to save time, I already went ahead and found all the cards inside my own collection that fit the need of what I need in order to build a commander deck. When you're building a commander deck for the first time, it doesn't matter how powerful the cards are, just find cards that fit the needs that we were looking for previously, and as long as you have the deck built, over time you could always upgrade the deck so that it plays much faster and it can be much stronger in the future. So So I'm assuming you have a pile of cards just like this, and what we're gonna do right now is organize them into separate piles. We want a pile of creatures, we want a pile of ramp, we want a pile of card draw, and we want a pile of removal. Sometimes you find cards that don't really fit the niche that you're looking for within these 4 piles, and we take those cards and we leave them in the special pile, because oftentimes these cards tend to be kind of powerful and they can lead to a game-winning situation, so we leave them in their own pile. Now that all of you have organized all your cards, we're gonna take everything but our ramp and move it off to the side over here to use later on. Now that we have our mana rocks, we're gonna organize them by mana value. So if we notice over here, this worn power stone costs 3 mana to play. So I'm gonna put that here. The ranged assistant costs 2 mana to play. So we're gonna leave that right there. 3 mana, 2 mana. When commander decks play faster, they tend to play better. So when we look at our cards over here, we notice how this is a 0 drop, or technically a 2 drop, so I can leave that here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards that are 2 drop that give us mana. So I'm automatically gonna take all of these cards. Ultimately, we wanna be at about 10 cards that ramp us. The next thing we're gonna focus on is card draw. Card draw is going to allow us to move through our deck and potentially allow us to get to our win condition faster. We'll do the same thing and organize these card draw spells. So we have about 12 card draw spells here. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this one card here, and I'm just going to say that we take all of these card draw spells. Now you're beginning to notice a pattern, and we're going to do the same thing with our removal. Now that we have our removal sorted, we generally are looking for about 8 to 10 pieces of single target removal, and then about 4 to 5 board wipes. Honestly, the more removal you play, in my experience, the more powerful the deck becomes. So if you want to go to 18 to 20 pieces of removal, you can go right ahead. Just make sure that you have enough card draw to be able to draw into more cards as you play. And now we're going to go ahead and grab the creatures and then sort the creatures as well. So as always, we want to prioritize the cards that cost less so that our deck tends to play a bit faster. And we're going to go ahead and grab the creatures that we think, in relation to their mana value and how much it costs to play, how much of an impact they're going to have on the board when we play them. Generally, when we play commander, our commander is a creature that our opponents always want to spend their removal on. What we want to do is play creatures, and try to do this while you're choosing your creatures. Pick one that, in relation to the amount of mana you have to pay to play the creature, look at its ability. So for instance, this Izzet Chemister is 3 mana to play. You can tap a red to exile instant or sorcery, and then you can pay 2 mana to cast any number of cards exiled with the Chemister without paying their mana cost. So this, over the course of 2 or 3 turns, can lead into a pretty explosive play. So this card kind of acts like bait. We need cards and creatures inside of our deck that bait removal, so that it puts our opponents in a position where they have to spend their removal on our creature to prevent our big play, so that we can then play our commander in a situation where it's more safe, because we know that we forced our opponent to use one of their removal spells. 18 more creatures to the deck. Now we have our special cards. The special cards that we have here are generally cards that are going to allow us to make explosive plays to potentially win us the game. I actually think we're going to add all of these cards. Now you should have a rough draft of your commander deck essentially. So it should be quite streamlined, which is ultimately the goal that we're looking for, to build a focused deck. Now what we're going to do is count the number of cards that we have here and then make any additional cuts if we need to. So what I'm going to do is now take this pile of cards and I'm going to organize it by mana value one last time to ensure that I have a nice mana curve, and you'll see what that means in a second. So now that we have all the cards sorted here, I want you to notice how the deck is essentially creating this shape here, where it's going from small to taller to its highest point to then going back down. So it's kind of creating this, it's almost this triangle shape. So when you lay your final deck out here, you need to make sure that it maintains this shape. This shape here ensures that you're going to be able to play cards early, because if the tallest point here, which is mana value 3 inside this deck in particular, if this tallest point was here at mana value 5 and the smallest point was here at 1 and 2, that would mean that when I played this deck, I would be doing nothing for turns 1, 2, and 3, and then by turn 5, I would have the ability to play all my cards, which in Commander, I'm going to be honest with you, is it depending on the deck you're playing, right? Because it could be a good thing. When you're playing a Commander deck, you need to ensure that your curve, or the highest point of your mana curve, occurs either between 2 or 3. This is what's going to give you the ability to play most of your cards early, which then puts you in a good position early on to win the game later on. We do have 103 cards inside the deck, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove 3 cards and then give my reasoning why as to why we removed them. So I want you to notice that as I was removing those cards from the deck, I really mainly chose, or was looking up here. Whenever we're making cuts to our deck, we always want to maintain the mana value, or the mana curve that we were talking about earlier. So whenever we're making cuts to a deck, you always look at the highest converted mana cost and then go down from there, unless your commander requires you to act differently. So now that we have our commander deck built, congratulations, you're finished. You probably just built your first commander deck. I hope you have a ton of fun playing the commander deck, and I hope that you continue to build more and you build your skills, because, you know, as I build commander decks, I learn more. So always try to play colors in different combinations that you're generally not used to, because that experience from building that commander deck carries on into other commander decks, so that you build a nice skill set of being able to put decks together and ultimately have fun and win games of commander. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like the video and subscribe to this channel. If you want to become part of the community and the family that we have here, you can join the Discord in the link below and enter the giveaways that we do on this channel. So whenever we end these videos, we always say the same thing. Always remember, eat healthy, okay? Work out every single day, and most importantly, believe in yourself and subscribe and like this video, okay? Hope you have an amazing day, all right? Peace out, people. Good luck. I hope you win your first game with that deck.